Have you ever said yes to yourself and prioritized something that was really important to you, only to then feel so guilty it stopped you from enjoying the experience that you were saying yes to? It can be crazy making, you know? Oh my gosh, I've struggled with this. So many women, friends, colleagues, clients that I know have struggled with this too. So you're not alone. And not only can that guilt stop us from actually enjoying and receiving what it is that we said yes to? Over time, some women stop prioritizing themselves because they don't want to feel that guilt. But that is the fast track to resentmentville and building a life from the outside in that's not satisfying versus when we actually can learn how to say yes to ourselves without feeling guilty. That is the path to fulfillment. And that is what I call living our yes. When we live our yes, we prioritize our dreams and our desires. And I know in every cell of my being, and I know this from personal experience and professional experience, having coached thousands of women over the last 15 plus years, that when we prioritize our dreams, our desires, ourselves, we create more success for ourselves and for everyone else, as well as we create that true fulfillment that we crave. That's why the first ever episode in my podcast, way back when in season 1, is called Live Your Yes. That's my favorite motto. It's the name of my business. And it's what I'm really passionate about. So today we're going to do a deep dive into why do we feel so guilty and begin to help you unlearn the guilt that has become such a learned response. So often we could make the mistake of not looking at why do I feel guilty? Because it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's just the way it is. But by looking into it and looking at 4 big reasons why we feel guilty when we prioritize ourselves, we can begin to loosen the grip that it can have on us and begin to actually see where it's coming from. And then the guilt doesn't have as much power over us, and it will free you up to have more choice and move forward from here, not trying to avoid it, but instead recognizing for what it is. And you can be like, hey, guilt, I see ya. And you're not going to let it stop you. So for today's episode, I'm going to do something that I don't typically do, which is I'm actually going to read to you. I'm going to read an article that I wrote last year with these 4 reasons of why we feel guilty. It starts with a story. It's just, I said it so well in the article. I'm going to share it with you here. So this story that I'm about to share with you takes place many years ago. I was in my 30s. I was going through a divorce, and I was really beginning to see these patterns of codependence and people pleasing that had been so dictating my life and leading me to create a life based on prioritizing other people instead of myself. So here we go, reading this article to you. So one evening, many years ago, I found myself in a common predicament. Although I told a girlfriend I'd meet her for dinner, I didn't really want to go. It was a cold December night. I didn't want to leave my warm, cozy nest of blankets on the couch. I didn't want to bundle up and navigate the snowy Colorado roads. I didn't want to be social. I was grieving the end of my marriage. I was upset knowing that my soon-to-be ex-husband was probably curled up with his new girlfriend, while here I was, holed up, licking the wound that was my big, broken heart. Now, I knew I didn't need to pretend that I was fine with my girlfriend. I knew she'd listen to me and invite me to share everything that I was feeling, but I just didn't have the bandwidth to listen to her. And I was feeling like I couldn't be a good friend. I also felt like a horrible friend if I changed plans at the last minute. What was I going to do? I was totally filled with angst. I got up from the couch and I went to the laundry room. My head spun like the washing machine, only it was full of justifications for why I should go and excuses for why it would be okay if I just said no. But you already said yes. She'll be angry or disappointed if you say no, said one voice. But you really don't want to go, said another. But I should go, right? Maybe I need to force myself to go. Yeah, maybe being with a girlfriend would be good for me. But it would feel so good to stay in, to stay warm, and just to be with myself. A thought came to me then that I had never considered before. It was different from all the other thoughts in that it sounded more like an affirmation, a declaration, a new kind of truth. It was so radical, so life altering. I had to say the words out loud. I'd rather disappoint another than disappoint myself. I said the words again. I'd rather disappoint another than disappoint myself. The words reverberated throughout my entire being and seemed to fill the small laundry room with a quivering sense of possibility. My mind stopped its wrestling match with itself. Time seemed to stop as my arms paused in midair, a towel hanging between them. But what did this really mean? And could I live like this? Perhaps it would mean I'd be prioritizing myself and what I wanted, willing to face someone else's upset rather than leave myself to make them happy. Holy wow. A wave of recognition hit me. Is that what I'd been doing all my life? So afraid to disappoint another that I'd rather disappoint myself? Make someone else's happiness or acceptance more important than my own joy and relationship with myself? But my stomach gurgled. How could I ever be trustworthy to another if I changed my mind and changed plans on them? Yet, how could I ever be trustworthy to myself if I made what someone else wanted or expected of me more important than what I knew was true for me? I called my friend and I rescheduled. To my surprise, she was totally understanding. And while she was disappointed to not see me, she also admitted to wanting to stay bundled up and inside for the night. I got off the phone and returned to my spot on the couch, reflecting on this new radical possibility for living my life for me, making choices based on what I wanted, willing to disappoint another rather than disappoint myself. This new thought flew in the face of a lifetime spent people pleasing, a lifetime spent as the friend who listened, the partner who was a caretaker, the one who shined a light on others and what they needed, all while keeping in the dark what I really desired, what I really wanted my life to be. That evening, I embarked on a lifelong journey to understand, why do we as women feel guilty when we prioritize ourselves and what is most important to us? And what is it going to take to unwind from these beliefs and patterns and say yes to ourselves without feeling guilty? Well, in order to stop feeling guilty when we prioritize ourselves, it's important to understand why we feel guilty in the first place. Only then can we begin to release the guilt and say yes to ourselves with confidence, which allows us to experience the happiness and fulfillment we truly desire. So, here are the 4 big reasons we feel guilty when we prioritize ourselves. Ready for this? You might want to grab a pen and paper to write these down to remind yourself of these reasons if and when you feel guilty next time you prioritize yourself. All right, number 1, societal expectations, cultural norms, and gender roles. Oh my! We are conditioned from a young age to put others' needs and desires before our own. We're also expected to be the nurturers, the caretakers, using our innate gifts as women in service of others at the expense of ourselves. We're also taught that if we nurture ourselves or prioritize what's important to us, we're being selfish and that is somehow bad and wrong. Number two, internalized beliefs. They said it's true, so it must be true, right? Cultural conditioning is the water we swim in. So we take on the beliefs of our society and think they're our own. We believe the story that we're bad and wrong if we put ourselves first. We buy the lie that being selfish is a bad thing and we should avoid it at all costs. We believe that what matters most is being a good girl, a good daughter, a good sister, a good wife, a good mother, a good fill in the blank. To be the good one who takes care of everyone else, even if she kills herself by trying to do that. Number three, fear of judgment. Will they kick me out of the community? We fear being judged like it's the plague. We fear being seen as selfish, ungrateful, neglectful, or unproductive. If someone judges us for not being a good partner, or friend, or mother, or wife, or boss, or employee, or, because we are going against societal or cultural norms, there is a deep-seated fear that we'll be ostracized and left to fend for ourselves. So, to avoid being judged and ensure we won't be cast out from our family, community, or tribe, we cooperate with society's expectations of us and play the part of the good girl, the good this, the good that. The fourth big reason we feel guilty when we prioritize ourselves is a lack of support. Nobody else is choosing this. So, doesn't that make us wrong? It often seems like there are more people encouraging us to self-sacrifice rather than practice self-care. When we do not receive adequate support from our family, friends, or community, we can often feel like we're letting others down or neglecting our responsibilities if we prioritize our own needs and desires. This lack of support can lead us to feeling isolated and ashamed for wanting to go against the norm and what's expected of us. So take a big, expansive breath and just notice whatever might be moving through your body as you heard all of these 4 reasons that we feel guilty when we prioritize ourselves. And know that by having this more vividly in your awareness, by having more insight to the guilt, that can begin to, like I said before, loosen its grip on us. So it is no longer in the driver's seat. It no longer has the same kind of power or control. So now that you know the reasons behind the guilt, let's look at what you can do to break free of this destructive pattern. First one is to recognize the intention of a lot of cultural conditioning, which is that it's designed to control us. We are way more controllable and less likely to prioritize ourselves when we are taught to feel guilty or selfish for doing so. Really take that in, because when you don't buy into the guilt, you are not controllable. When you don't buy into the guilt, you are tapped into even more of your power, your agency, your sovereignty. Culture doesn't want this. The patriarchy doesn't want this. So when you really can begin to see, it's not that, oh, well, this is just the way it is, and accept guilt and learn to live with it. Instead, this point helps you see, oh, this was designed to control me. F that. Like, not that you need to get into a power struggle and resist, but more of you can look at it now and be at more choice and be like, no, thank you, and move on. Prioritizing yourself. All right, number 2, become more aware of the internal beliefs that have been unconsciously controlling your every choice. Journaling, therapy, coaching are great resources to increase self-awareness and your sense of sovereignty. 3, Develop a new relationship with judgment, yours and others. Remember the insight I had about I'd rather disappoint another than disappoint myself? I was not going to let the fear of my friend's judgment stop me from choosing what was true for me. I didn't arrive at that decision right away. You heard in the story, there was a bunch of wrestling and angst-filled moments involved, but ultimately I got to the point where I was willing to receive her judgment. It wasn't comfortable, but I was willing to. And then what was so cool was that she wasn't judging me at all. And that experience showed me how, when I'm actually choosing what's true for me, so often it allows the other person to choose what's truer for them and create something better for everyone involved. All right, so getting back to developing a new relationship with judgment, yours and others, ultimately learning how to let go of judging ourselves and being willing to receive the judgments of others, which does not mean that you agree with their judgments, is the path to personal liberation. Number 4, surround yourself with supportive people. Begin adding people to your life who encourage you to prioritize you and all that's important to you. Now, this does not mean you won't also tend to those you're responsible for if you choose to. It just means that instead of excluding yourself, you're going to include yourself in your life more. So you could follow inspiring thought leaders on social media who teach this important message. Use social in ways that work for you. You could join local or online groups and communities dedicated to supporting and empowering women to include themselves in their lives. Or you could work with a therapist or coach who is skilled at helping women unwind from social conditioning in order to create a life and business they love. So those are 4 things that you can begin to do to break free from this destructive pattern of guilt. And it takes courage to live your life beyond the limits of society's expectations of you as a woman. Yet it is possible with support, community, and a commitment to yourself. You can live your dreams and desires without guilt. So, what can you do moving forward so that you can carry forth the golden nuggets of this conversation and actually begin to be in action with them? Well, here's a few suggestions. 1, go visit my site, meganwalrod.com. The link is in the show notes, and download my free gift, How to Say Yes to Yourself Without Feeling Guilty. I love the super tangible, bingeable, action-oriented guide. It's short, yet it's action-oriented, and it will help you see step by step how to break free of the people pleasing. It also gives you a really powerful mindset shift around guilt that goes beyond what we've been talking about today. This conversation brings awareness to why there's that guilt and helps you begin to unlearn the guilt. And the free gift gives you a new perspective on guilt that's like, oh, it's going to empower you to be like, I see guilt and now I know what it really is, and I'm not going to let it stop me. And there's also step-by-step journaling prompts for you to work through in that free guide. Super valuable. Pick that up. It's free. You can also join our private Facebook community, the Live Your Yes community, full of women dedicated to learning what I've been sharing with you today and really learning how to prioritize themselves to create a life they love from the inside out. So link to that is in the show notes too. And then take a moment to look over the notes that you took while you were listening to this. If you took notes, circle the things that stand out for you. And one of the things I love doing for myself are creating little reminder notes on Post-its and posting them on my desk, on my mirrors. And so maybe the Post-it note you could write for yourself today is, it's okay to say yes to myself. Guilt is optional. Something like that, or something that you wrote in your own notes as a way to really anchor this in and help you carry this message forward and let it begin to change your life from the inside out too, by giving you even more freedom and permission to unlearn guilt and prioritize yourself. Because really, that is the path of live your yes. That is the message of this podcast. And that is my biggest desire for you and for this show, to support you in creating a life that lights you up. So thank you for tuning in today. Until the next time, mwah, be your brave, fabulous self and see what you can say yes to today for yourself that will bring you more joy than you can ever imagine. Bye-bye.